I don't know if you've read the Afghanistan papers, the book that just came out last year.
Not the whole book,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've read plenty of people sort of harvesting the.
Yeah, and I've witnessed much of that like firsthand. Just this like bureaucratic inertia, this bureaucratic incentive
Yeah.
to like even war has been bureaucratized, right? So like we need metrics, right? And in Vietnam it was all about kills. Like we need to kill VC. And in Afghanistan, a lot of it was like captures. We need to capture these terrorists. We need to terrorists or these Taliban. We need to get them off the battlefield. And so you see that this creates the incentive to define down what constitutes like leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just picking up like the equivalent of like a private, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what? Okay, well, this whole thing is not what it's, cut out to be.
I try to explain this to some of my conservative friends who very much understand the critique of big government when it comes to central planning. Like you can't possibly replace the genius of the marketplace with one person reorganizing things from the top. And they get that power corrupts, absolutely. So you have a knowledge problem and you have an incentive problem. But then when it comes to police and the military, they put that aside and they have this romantic faith that everything you're telling me just doesn't happen, that people are there for the right reasons and they're going to do the right thing. But a lot of your research, which I haven't read yet, is about people on the right sort of driving the anti-war movement, kind of based on that understanding that government fails even when you really desperately need it not to fail.
Yeah, I mean, so not only the anti-war movement, but just the non-interventionist project writ large, like foreign aid is a big part of this. And once upon a time, it was not impossible to be a small c conservative of a traditionalist stripe and be anti-war, or at least skeptical of military power, right? There's a kind of agrarian logic to that opposition, right? Because war, especially mass war, it upends society, right? Especially if there's a draft. People are plucked out of their professions and they're thrown, and it homogenizes communities and the nation writ large. But over the course of what now 2 or 3 generations, those earlier, I'm thinking particularly of a guy like Howard Buffett. I always love bringing him up to people because he's Warren Buffett's dad, and it's interesting. Like, I guess this is one of those chances where the apple fell very far from the tree. But he's one of these guys who was a libertarian in his economics, but had something more of a traditionalist view of war. He was a man of his faith, a man of a great faith. But over the course of the Cold War, those sinews, those anti-militarist sentiments got washed out of the conservative movement, and it was really only in libertarianism that they found a home in a lifeboat in the 60s and 70s. But even during that time, all throughout the early Cold War, the right wing of the GOP held out a great resistance to foreign aid, to some aspects of diplomatic policy, and often for reasons that we would be completely attuned with, knowledge problem and this fear of inflation, this belief that you can't plan economies, that these things have to be organic.
Yeah.